Hello, everybody at home, and welcome to it. It's Mindset Learn Extra. I am Katleho, and of course, we're going to be together for an entire hour. We'll be doing nothing but physical sciences. And you know, at home, guys, as usual, I don't roll alone. I'm with the teacher. Hey, John, how are you doing?
I'm really good. Guys, great to be with you this evening. Now, I know that you might have been expecting someone not as tall as me. Unfortunately, Tracy's not well. So keep her in your thoughts, and we'll give a big shout out to Tracy out there. Hope you get better soon, and we'd love to see you back next Tuesday, Tracy. So, Katlego, where can people find the notes and all that good stuff?
Alrighty. Tracy, hope you get well soon. But then John is going to be with us, and he's keeping us all learned for the entire evening. And of course, on Facebook, we are facebook.com/learnextra. On Twitter, we are @learnextra. And our website is up and running. It's www.learn.mindset.co.za. Just make sure that you go there, and then you get all the latest notes and everything that you need to know about the schedules and shows and the teachers who are very interesting and who more. Let's make sure that every day, Monday to Thursday, we are learning and doing nothing less than learning. And of course, we have beautiful competitions lined up. We have a water competition. You know, water is life, and that competition is going to be running, or it's already up and running as we speak. So make sure that you go to our Facebook page, and you'll get a link there that will direct you to the competition that we are running, the water competition. The website is also up and running. It's www.watergame.co.za to make sure that I get it right this time around. And of course, get in there, register, and stand a chance to win awesome prizes. Airtime ranging up to 20,000. We have, of course, also a trip that is up for grabs to a game reserve of your choice with family and friends. And of course, we also have a bursary of up to 15,000 where you get a chance to go study at the University of KwaZulu-Natal. So make sure that you get in touch with us on that one. And I'm giving away a beautiful Casio calculator. At the end of this show, I'll be announcing the winner of this Casio calculator. Just make sure that you go to our Facebook page. There's a link there for your test yourself, and if you test yourself and get all the answers right, or most of the answers right, you stand yourself to win the smart, beautiful Casio calculator, all courtesy of a Casio. Thank you very much. Let me take it over to John.
Thanks so much, Katlego. Now, guys, remember that Katlego is going to be announcing the winner from last week's competition. Yes. You've still got a chance to do the test yourself. The links are there. Make sure you get onto it. You register for Curio, and you're going to get the answers as well. So make sure that you've put in your solutions. Submit your solutions. If you don't complete, you don't get the answers. You don't get your score. So make sure, and then next Tuesday, you'll be getting the answers, your score, and you might be announced as the lucky winner. Okay, guys, competition today closes. Today's competition, 5 questions on electric circuits that we're dealing with today, and that closes next week, Tuesday, 8 o'clock in the morning. But get your questions in soon. Right, so last week, Tracy kicked off, and she was dealing with revision of electric circuits, stuff that you just got back to school, and this is the topic that you're busy currently doing, currently as in current, but you're doing at school at the moment as well. So we didn't do any internal resistance questions, EMF internal resistance. We just revised grade 10 and 11, still important that you know Ohm's law and all of that sort of thing, the basics. Now we're consolidating, we're putting things together, and we're dealing with this topic that a lot of people struggle with. Internal resistance, EMF. What's the relationship? That's what we're going to find out about. So let's run through it. We're going to define and explain this term EMF and internal resistance, and then we're going to work through some circuit problems. Guys, I can guarantee you that you're going to get one of these in the final exam. You're going to get one of these in your prelim exam. It has to be there. So just make sure you sort it out now. If you've got questions, Katlego's waiting. He's eager to hear you, either on Twitter or on Facebook. Write it down and get going. So let me throw you a question, the challenge question. Also posted, it's pasted up at the top of the page, am I right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. And it says the following: a 12-volt lead-acid battery, as one found in the motor car battery, has to deliver a large amount of current in order to get this car started. Now, the current in the car really has to get that starter motor going to get your ignition sparking, and there's a coil that is used to build up the potential difference. But to get the starter motor, you've really got to have a large current. Now, here's what one of the learners is asking. Question says, would it be possible to use a series of dry cells? So if we take 1,5 AAA batteries, put them next to each other, and how many would we need to get 12 volts? Well, you can work that out. 12 divided by 1,5, it's going to be 8 of them, all lined up in series. Now, we know that when we line things up in series, we can add their potential difference. So 1,5 plus 1,5 would give us 3. Another 4 would give us 6. 8 would give us 12. Okay? So couldn't we use that to start the car instead of using one of these lead acid batteries? We know lead isn't very good for the environment. So couldn't we just put some of those those dry cell batteries? And maybe we could even have some rechargeable ones, the dry ones that we plug in. So you plug in at home, charge them up overnight, put them in, and then start your car. Wouldn't that work? Well, you think about it. See if that's an alternative. Okay. Let's get down to the hub of what we're dealing with tonight. Now, I want to just have a moment here and talk to motivate you. We'll come back to the theory of internal resistance. Now, I don't know what your June marks were like, and I don't know how you're feeling. Beginning of the third term, grade 12s, you've got prelims, and they're just over a month away. We've got August, and the last week of August, some of you are going to be starting prelims, so you haven't got a lot of time. So I don't know what stress you're under, but you're needing to prepare for these prelims. And if you stay watching, we're going to help you get there. Don't worry about that. We've got some extra programs scheduled for you to prepare properly for your prelims. But let's just take some of that information and say you're a grade 12 learner. You're starting to count down the days. You're starting to recognize, hey, I haven't got a whole lot of time before I write prelims. And once I start writing prelims, I go straight into writing finals, more or less. There's a whole lot of pressure on you. And your parents are talking to you. You're hopefully been looking at your career options. You've gone for some tests. You've spoken to your school counselors. And they've been saying to you, you've got so much potential. And I'm sure you agree, Katlego. Yes. People have potential. And we mustn't write off their potential. But the problem is translating the potential that we have into real output. And for some of you, there are a whole lot of reasons why your potential, which is huge and wonderful, isn't translating into positive outputs. For some of you, it could be circumstance. Some of you, it's just that you haven't had time. You haven't been focused. And for some of you, it's something called internal resistance. Because, you see, you've got all this potential in your head, but in your heart, you don't really want to do it. And so what you've got to do is reduce the internal resistance, and then you can convert potential into output. And so what you've got to understand, there is this thing inside you that's stopping you from performing. It's your motivation. Now, guys, I really want to get you motivated. It's possible to succeed. It's possible to work hard, make a habit of hard work. Between now, it's not too late. Don't think it's too late to start working now. You can improve your score by 20% at least over your June exam marks. If you work consistently now until the end of the year. Please don't wake up in October and think you're going to achieve. You will improve a little bit, but start working now and you can improve a whole lot more. In fact, your June marks, even though they were really good or they were really bad, they only count a fraction of the final mark. Yes, they'll count, but it doesn't. It's not a big difference. Okay, so you can really put in some hard work now. And if you got great results, you got your distinctions, you got your high 7s and 6s, it's important. Don't stop now. It's not the end of the race. We're here to walk together until the very end. So how are we going to do it? We're going to reduce the internal resistance. And that's what we're dealing with tonight. Understand this. Internal resistance is the thing that prevents a cell from delivering its full potential. The EMF of a cell is the maximum amount of energy which the cell can supply. So that's like your potential. It's what you can deliver. But the problem is that the potential difference that is delivered is less than the EMF. And this is due to the internal resistance of the cell. So this is your potential, your EMF. This is what's used up in the output. And this is what's used up with the stress and the worry and the lack of motivation. So think about the cell just as like you are. What are you going to do? If we, as dealing with a circuit, we want to get this down and we want to produce maximum that because we've got a brilliant amount of potential. So please think about it carefully and then let's get going. So this thing called V load, it's really the current in the external circuit multiplied by the total resistance in the external circuit, R external. When we look at the different parts of it, we can break it apart and we can say V internal. This part, the internal that deals with the internal resistance, the internal bit, that is made up of the current times the little r. The little r is your internal resistance. Internal resistance. Now guys, I hope you can see that the I here and the I here are the same thing. And so when we look at this, we recognize we can factorize that out. Those two I's are the same. And that is really important. If my current increases in the external circuit because I put things in parallel and I reduce the resistance, what's going to happen? The bigger current is going to mean more stuff, more energy is lost, more potential is used up in moving the charge through the battery. And that's really what it's all about. So we need to recognize that the current is the same because we are usually reasoning and we're usually connecting cells in series. And that's why we can say that current is the same. Okay, please don't get scared of this section. It's really straightforward. If you've got those principal ideas, then you won't go wrong. So we're not even going to move on from that. We're not going to go to the next question. I want you to take a moment to think about it, to make sure you've internalized it, check your motivation, reduce your internal resistance, and let's get ready. Try the challenge question, think about it carefully, get ready to get on with the other questions. Download the notes, get them on your mobile phone, and make sure you're up and ready to run when we come back from the break.
Of course, John, it's been great. We're seeing, getting comments on Facebook about how great the day is going, the flow, the physical science flow. People have been tuning in,
Excellent.
And, they're giving great comments. But then, of course, make sure that you get to Facebook. It's facebook.com/learn extra with an X and speak to us. Share with us ideas and send through your questions, and I'll make sure that I direct them to John. We'll be back. Welcome back, Mindsetters. And of course, it's still Mindset Learn Extra. I am Katleho and I'm with John. We're doing Physical Sciences Grade 12 today and making sure that always we keep you informed and learn it. And of course, I'm giving away the Casio calculator. Just go to our Facebook page and ensure that you click on the test yourself link there, and then test yourself as many times as you can, and you stand a chance to win the Casio calculator. And at the end of the show, I'll be announcing the winner of last week, or from last week, and I'll be giving them the Casio calculator. The water game is still on. I'll be giving you more information on that as well. John, let's take it away.
Thank you, Katlego. Let's get going, guys. I'm sure you're eager. So question number 1. So it tells us that the following experiment was performed by a group of learners, science students, and they were doing we were asked to read this little introduction about internal resistance of a cell or a battery. And it says, when we measure the voltage of a battery, we say we're measuring the terminal potential difference of the battery. So across the battery, we see the battery or the cell was labeled 1,5 volts. In the diagram on the right is not supplying any current. So take a look over here, no current, okay? And we're told that it is 1,5 volts. That's the reading on the voltmeter. Assuming that the voltmeter has an infinite resistance. Voltmeters usually have a very large resistance, so we say the potential difference measured under these conditions is called the EMF, E, and EMF is 1,5. So guys, that's the first step. The current is not flowing. There is no work being done in the external circuit. Maximum potential that this cell can deliver is 1,5 volts. Now, look what happens. Different circuit. It's a closed circuit now. The battery is now connected to a resistor and is supplying a current of 0,2 amps. The terminal potential difference is now 1,3 volts. So over here, 1,3 volts. It's doing some work in the external circuit. That's what this battery is now measuring. Take a look here. If we say it has high energy over here, through the ammeter, doesn't use up energy over here, it has got to the battery, or to the resistor at least, and now on this side, it's at a lower potential. So between there and there, between the orange and the pink, is what the voltmeter is reading. Different types of energy. The current, because it was in series, is the same, but the energy is different. It's like what happens when you go shopping. Your bank balance, when you go into the shop, is at a certain level. When you come out from the shop, there's a difference in potential. There's a difference in the amount of money that you can buy, in your spending potential. Same thing's happened here. There's a drop in potential. And that's what's being measured here. This is the load, the V load, that is being measured here. Now, the same battery is now supplying a current of 0,4 amps. The potential difference across the terminal is 1,1 volts. 1,1 volts. Hey guys, it's now a difference. It started off still the same. Let's just keep our colors the same. Started off with orange, still the same. But when it came here, it changed. It split. The current divided, but the potential was still the same across here and here. But now on the other side, it wasn't down to the pink anymore. It's gone down to the green level. So hopefully you can see, if you mark your potential regions of the same potential on a diagram, you'll be able to see where there's been a change in potential, where there's been a drop. And over here, we connected things in parallel. So just take a note of this diagram, and you can see that the voltmeter is reading the difference between orange and green on this side. Across, if I connected a voltmeter here, it would still read between orange and green. And this one would still read between orange and green. So they would all be the same reading, because orange to green is 1,1 volts. Across any places between orange and green, those regions of potential would be the same. Okay, so please be aware of that. But that's kind of crazy. Originally, we had 1,5. And we've dropped all the way down to 1,1. What's happened? Let's look at the questions. That's exactly what the questions are asking. So it tells us that when a cell is not supplying a current, what is the value of the terminal potential of the battery? What is this value known as? So in this case, what was the reading? We said E was 1,5 volts. And it's known as EMF. Okay? EMF stands for electromotive force. You need to know that. It's like the pushing power of the battery. It's the amount of energy that it can push those charges through the closed circuit with. Okay. Now, what's the next thing? What happens to the terminal potential as the current in the circuit increases? Have a look. What happened over here? Over there was 0 amps. Over here, the current was measured at 0,2 amps. Notice that was 1,3 volts. Then this one, 0,4 amps. So what's happened to the current? The current doubled, went from 0,2 to 0,4. And what's happened to the potential difference? Read it out of the diagram if you can see. From 1,3 to 1,1. So what's happened? It's decreased. What's happened? The terminal potential, V, decreased. Sure. I hope you've got that. Make sure you understand that in this scenario, as the current has increased, the potential difference decreased. The terminal potential difference. Remember from our summary, we're dealing with the V load part. That's what we're dealing with. So they then ask us, the next part of the question is, what is lost voltage? Well, we started with EMF being 1,5 volts, and we had V load in this final circuit as being 1,1 volts. There's a difference between these. There's the V internal, and that was the difference between those of 0,4 volts. These two add together will always give you the same EMF. So lost volts or lost voltage hasn't actually been lost. It's using up energy to push through the cells, to push through the battery. We need to recognize that's where it's happening. And so that's the next question. Explain why the cell, I don't understand where this is going, but explain why the cell loses voltage. It's because there's energy used up inside the cell. Okay, what you need to recognize, inside that cell, there's a chemical reaction. And we've now got to move charges from the negative terminal to the positive terminal. Positive charges from the negative terminal to the positive charge. And that requires some work. It doesn't flow normally. Normally, from the positive terminal, the charges are attracted to the negative terminal. Now they get back to the negative terminal. They've got to be pushed. And as the cells get older as well, there's additional chemical waste, products that are produced, that makes it more difficult for these charges to get through. Now, I know that in reality, that it's not actually the positive charges moving, but I like to think of it as positive charges, because conventional current is the movement of positive charge around the circuit. In fact, what we know it is, at the same time as the positive charges are moving, or we say they're moving because they don't actually physically move, it's the electrons, the negative charges, that move from the negative terminal all the way around to the positive terminal, but the electrons still need to get from the positive terminal back to the negative terminal. And so that's why we've called it, there's this two-way flow. Positives move one circuit, negatives move the other, and we've got to decide which way is current. We've decided we're going to take the route of defining it as positive. It's really only in metals and in circuits that we use here that we have non-moving positive charges. But the idea is that we will have. In electronics and in plasmas and all over the place, we do get other positive charges moving. Even in solutions, you get positive charges moving. So we'll stick to the convention. Right, last question is now the calculation bit. And let's hope we can get some space here. And the board can extend our page a little, and we can start to interact with the question. But it's giving me a little bit of uphill, so I can't really read. So it says, using a formula, calculate the lost volts. So I don't really like the word lost volts. I'm going to say it's V internal. Okay? Calculate the internal resistance of the cell in the experiment above. So there are two things that we need to know. First of all, the equation is E is equal to V load plus V internal. And then we can break that apart and say V internal is I times R, where the capital R is the external resistance, and the I is still the same because it's in series, times the little r. Okay, and what we've got to do is we have to find the IR part, and we've got to find the R part. So there are two parts to this particular question. Let's see what we know. I'm going to say that we know that E is 1,5. So there's no doubt about that. Then we've got to make some choices. We were given current and V load for both those two circuits. And I'm going to just choose the easier one. I'm going to choose the number, if you take a look here, I'm going to choose this one over here where the current was 0,2 amps and the V load was 1,3, because there's a single resistor, and it makes it just a little bit easy in terms of that. We don't know what that resistance is, but I don't think we really need it. So let's just check that out. So remember, the load was 1,3 volts. So what I can do is I can say, I know that V load was 1,3 volts. And I'll put the V there. I know that the current was 0,2 amps. And I'm putting it in brackets so that we don't make a mistake. I know that's R, and I know that this was 1,5 volts. Now, guys, you don't need to put the units in. I was just stressing the units to make sure that we don't make mistakes with them. Because you don't suddenly want to put current in and recognize that current is in amps and it's not in volts. Amps times ohms gives us volts, so we are happy with that. So I'm just going to carry on and use the calculator now to work out the little r. And let's move it down and extend the page. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say 1,5 minus 1,3 equals 0,2 times little r. And if I do that calculation, I recognize that's 0,2, which is quite nice, and that's 0,2 over here, little r. What am I going to do? Divide both sides by 0,2, and I get little r is equal to 1 ohm. Okay, guys, I could check it and make sure that it's the same answer with the other circuit. I'm going to leave that for you to do. Okay, let's move on. We've calculated, let's give the answer. We wanted V internal, which was equal to V lost, is now going to need to be calculated. We haven't quite finished, so that's going to be I times little r, which is 0,2 times, or in brackets, 1. So the V internal is 0,2 volts. That's what was lost. Please make sure you answer the whole question. Don't just get to the answer of R is equal to. Make sure you've answered it. Check back to the question, and you'll see that they asked us for both those things. They asked us for the internal resistance of the cell and the lost volts. Calculate the lost volts and the internal resistance, and we've done both of those. Okay, let's go on to the next one, which is a similar sort of question, but I think it's got some interesting ideas to it. So let's pick it up. We're not given a circuit diagram. We're told that a 9-volt battery is short-circuited. So we know that it is a 9-volt battery. When they give you the potential of a battery, you know that is the EMF. So E is 9 volt. The potential difference across the battery is found to be 8 volts, and the current is 5 amps. What is the internal resistance of the battery? So guys, again, we're going to put down V load is 8 volts, and we want to find the internal resistance. So we want, first of all, to find V internal, which is I times little r. And what do we know? We know the equation is E is equal to V load plus V internal. Break that apart some more and say it's V load plus I times little r. And there we've got the equation. We can now substitute. We're going to substitute 9 volts is equal to, what was the V load? 8 volts. Plus the current, which was 5 amps, times the little r. Now, I don't know why this evening I'm keeping on putting the units in. I don't normally do that, and it's not required. So I'm going to take them out and just leave them like that. So there we go. We're going to subtract. We're going to get 1, because 9 minus 8 is equal to 5 over times r. That's going to be, means that little r is going to be 1 divided by 5, which is 0. Don't leave it as a fraction, 0,2 ohms. And there we are. We were asked simply to find the internal resistance of the battery, and we've done it. Okay, there's one last bit of the question. In fact, it's another whole question, which I think you need to just have a quick look at, and let's just brief it. And it says to us, asking a different question: what is the EMF of the battery in the following circuit? Let's pick out what we're given. We're given that there's an 8 ohm resistor and a 4 ohm resistor, and they're connected together in that branch. There's a 4 ohm resistor, and to me it looks like that's in a parallel section. So those two look like they're in one branch of the parallel section. We're told the maximum current is 5 amps, and we're told the internal resistance, the little r, is equal to 5 ohms. Guys, let's see if you can do that in the break, and we'll be back straight after this.
Of course, man. Thank you very much, John. Remember, go grab some water, and then it's a beautiful, beautiful evening. We're going to be back with more and more. And to access our notes, of course, on our Facebook page, I just posted the links. Grade 11 and grade 12, most of you guys were asking us for the previous questions, notes. I've just posted the links there. They'll direct you to the relevant portal for you to get those notes. We'll be back after this. Welcome back, Mindsetters. You're still tuned in to Mindset Learn Extra. I am Katlego, and of course, I'm still with John, where we're more or less making sure that we answer all of your questions and we teach you and help you learn in prepping for the crucial exams that are coming. John, I'm throwing it back at you, and I have a couple of questions, comments, and a heated debate on Facebook via the question that we posted earlier.
The challenge question.
The
Well,
challenge
that's really
question,
great
yes.
to hear. Katlego, we're going to do the challenge question in a few minutes. So, guys, if you've got an idea about what you think the answer is, get it onto the page, and we will give you a shout out, some of you a shout out possibly. But I want to see if we can just quickly go through this second part, question 2.2. So let's get going with that. Remember, it's slightly different because it asks us for the EMF. We're going to use exactly the same formula as we used previously, but we need to do some working first. So when you're given a question like this, the first thing you're going to do is, although you're going to see that you need EMF is equal to V external plus V internal, what you need to recognize is that is going to be broken down to I times R plus little r. Now, what have we got? We want to find E. That's the thing that we're looking for. But what have we got? Have we got I for the maximum current? Yes, we have. So we know that I external through the series part of from the battery, in fact, all the way up to where it divides there, that's the maximum, and it's going to be 5 amps. So we've got the total current. Just make sure that you don't get confused with your colors. I've made a little mistake there. I should really just make that yellow because the current has divided, and I've made the second bit through the 4 ohm a green. I've got green, not green, orange over there. So what else do we know? We know the resistance. But guys, we know the resistance of the internal little r. So I know that little r. I know that that's 5 ohms. Do I know this r? No, I don't, but I can get it. Because look here, I've got the resistances in this green bit, and they're connected in series. So we know that R total in series is equal to R1 plus R2. So I can work that out. But I recognize that that's in a parallel branch. So I'm going to have to do that as well. So let me quickly just do this bit. I'm going to say R1 is 8 plus 4, which gives me R total in that branch is 12 ohms. So that's the first thing. So I've got 12 ohms where I've got the green bit, and 4 ohms where I've got the orange bit. I'm going to now work out R parallel. Remember what the formula is for R parallel. We say 1 over R parallel is 1 over R1, branch 1, plus 1 over branch 2. Now, the one branch was 12, and the other one was 4. Now, I know that some people struggle on the calculator, but I want to show you how easy it is. So, if you aren't familiar, get your Classio calculator out, and we put in a fraction, and we say 1, and then we go down, and we say 12, and then we go the blue button to make it a new thing, and you've just got to practice. Go back to the fraction button, and we put 1, and then we put 4 as the denominator, and we're going to say what that is. And we recognize that comes out as 1/3. Okay? So if I do that as 1/3, then we can put the answer in as equals 1/3. But that's not my final answer, because I wasn't asked to find 1 over, and I never leave an answer as a fraction, as a common fraction. I want R parallel. Now, let's have a look at that calculator again, and I want to show you another really cool function that will help you do these problems. So have a look here. We've got this little button, x to the minus 1, and we're going to push that right now, and what it does is it flips it up. X to the minus 1 flips it over, and we get the answer of 3. And that's exactly what we're wanting to get. So we can say, therefore, R is equal to 3 ohms. And that's it. No problem. We've solved the thing. But make sure, guys, that you don't make this therefore equal to R parallel equals 1 over R parallel. You must put this therefore sign in. You must put that step in. You must rename it. Okay. So is that my R? That's the only resistor in the external circuit. So I now know, going back to my equation, that my R, big R, is equal to 3. So I can now take this bit here and substitute into the equation, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to substitute into this equation because it's on the data sheet, and I'm going to actually just erase this working so that we've got some space to do it, and let's go and put it in over here. So we're going to say, what was my current? It was 5. What was my big R? It was 3. What was my internal? It was 5. If I do that, I get 5 times 8, and that gives me a total EMF of 40. Okay, guys, I hope you've got that sorted. Let's move on to the challenge question now, and I'm going to just pull that down, see if we've got some time. It does create a bit of a debate.
Yeah.
It says to us, what can you do? Can you use 1,5 ohm battery, AAA batteries, 1,5 volt batteries, dry cells to start a car? Katlego, what are the learners on Facebook saying? Give us a couple of, shout out to those that have given us some answers.
Yes, Mindsetters, we've received your comments and people are loving your motivation. John, we have in Jabulo, Ayanda Shangase, who's saying no, the internal resistance of the cells are not negligible, and as a result, it's highly unlikely that the car will start.
Okay, so on the no side,
Yeah.
okay, the no, they're saying no, and the reason is too much internal resistance. Okay. What do the yeses say? Are there anybody that's saying yes?
We have Olo Mdokwana who's saying yes, it is possible because the 1.5 V battery can still deliver current to the car.
Okay, it can deliver
still,
it can deliver current.
Yeah.
Okay, now I'm not going to ask you to vote, okay? We're not going to count up the yeses and the nos because sometimes democracy doesn't give you the right answer. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually look at this very carefully. What we need to recognize is that the critical statement of this whole question was that it needs to deliver a large amount of current, okay? So let's think about that. The V in the external circuit, the I in the external circuit has to be extremely large. Okay, that's what it's saying. Now, if we make the I in the external large, what you've got to recognize is that we know that EMF is equal to I times R plus that same I times little r. And the reason it's the same I is because these batteries, these cells, were connected in series. They were in series. And if we make the I large, can you see that this is going to use up a whole lot of your potential? It's going to drain your potential. So what's delivered is not going to be enough. And even if you look at your little cells, your dry cells, the internal resistance in the dry cell is much bigger than the internal resistance in a lead acid battery. The lead acid battery has a lower internal resistance, and it's so able to continue delivering that high current. That's the problem. So that's why the dry cells, although they're very convenient, they're not able to deliver a large current. They've become very useful now because we're no longer using high resistance instruments like torches, and they've changed the bulbs to LEDs, making the current less. So that's made the dry cell more popular. But when we're dealing with cars, we're dealing with high resistance. We want a high current. So we need a battery that has a low internal resistance. So unfortunately, the answer is no, you can't do it. And guys, in any case, another no answer, just from a practical point, is can you imagine how much it would cost if you had to take every morning some batteries and plug them into your car? I don't know if you've bought batteries recently, those little cells. I mean, even the ones with the bunnies that make the bunnies go faster. We're not going to give the name of that, but you know the makes that I'm talking about. They're expensive. A couple of them cost you $50. And now you're going to need how many to get 12 volts? It's going to cost you. And how long will they last? Will you even be able to get through a week? Very quickly, you're going to find that they're not rechargeable, and that's the advantage of the lead-acid battery. So, not a good idea. Let's stick with the lead-acid battery for now, unless one of you bright sparks out there can come up with a new idea. And we're looking for new ideas, innovation, particularly in things that are green energy. Maybe there's a solution that we'll be able to say, you know what? That seed was planted when I was thinking about and listening to Learn Extra. And now I've got a patent that goes across the whole world. Guys, all of that's possible if you study hard and you work hard at your physical science. Any other questions, Katlego?
Yes, we have a question here from Nakavambe. I'm sorry, it's Nakavambe, who's saying that, let's take, for instance, I'm given a set of resistors in parallel and another one in series.
Okay, let me just draw that out for you for a minute. So we've got resistors in parallel.
Yes.
And I'm just going to put 3 of them in parallel. Are the same one, are similar ones connected in series? Let's presume that's the case. Now, guys, I haven't got space there. I've got them. I've bent it. Remember, in series, you can bend corners, even in parallel. So recognize the different configuration. This one is in parallel, and this one is in series. Yeah, what's his question?
And a single circuit.
Yeah.
And I'm also given the internal resistance, and I'm asked to calculate the equivalent resistance. Do I also include the internal resistance in my calculation?
Okay, very good question. Guys, for grade 12, you've always got to assume that there is internal resistance, unless the question specifically says, assume no internal resistance. So let me say that again. It doesn't matter. You've got to think about internal resistance every time from now on. You see a circuit problem, unless they specifically say internal resistance is negligible, or you can ignore internal resistance. You've got to think about it, and you've got to include it in your calculation. So absolutely, if these were in a circuit, and I now see where the question is going, we've got some cells in series and some in parallel, and they were all connected to the same circuit. So let me just do that connection over there, and I'm going to connect that one over there, and I'm going to say, I've got a battery over here, and they're connected like that. Yes, I must think about internal resistance. You can't, and because these cells are internal, there is an internal resistance. You've got to think about it. There's something happening there. And the formula that we've used, which is really simple, think about it: maximum output, the load, V load, plus V internal. And if you can remember that terminal resistance, I just want to go through that again. We spoke about the terminal resistance. So there's your battery of 2 cells, and the terminal resistance when there's an open circuit, there could be another something like that, but that switch is open. There is no current. The reading on this ammeter here, if I put an ammeter in series, the I would read 0 amps. This terminal resistance, this terminal voltage here is the EMF. That's going to tell you what that cell can deliver. If I now change it and I have a load where that switch is closed, and I do this, and I say, please watch here very carefully. This is now has a reading, and what we recognize is that current, doesn't matter what it is at the moment, it's going to be a certain current, it's going to be positive. Let's just say it's 1 amp. Okay? This potential is reading between there and on the other side. It's just reading the work done between. The difference in the energy between those 2 points. It's reading V external. It's reading V load. So all that we're going to do is we're going to use that I and that R, and we're not going to, we've got a missing bit. I hope you can see. That's missing. That's V internal. Okay. Katlego, are there any other questions?
No, that's more or less about it. We have a whole lot of people saying that you should be a motivational speaker.
Oh, you know what, guys? If you can go on and learn from this evening's lesson and it motivates you, I'd be so grateful. I really want to challenge you. Shoot for the stars. Shoot as high as you can. Work hard, but be clever. Guys, you can't burn out. And if you try and do too much too quickly and put yourself in all work and no fun is not going to help you either. So get some balance. Work consistently every day and you will succeed. Okay. Katlego, it's been great being with you. And I've really appreciated having you with us this evening. Guys, go and get the notes. Do the other questions. And if you've got any questions, get to the help desk, post on the page, and we'll see you again sometime soon.
Of course, it's been an honorable pleasure.
Okay,
indeed
great.
Being with you. And of course, he said the notes are on at Learn Extra,
It's
facebook.com/Learn Extra.
Okay, it's facebook.com/Learn Extra
with an X.
with an X.
Yeah.
And guys, also the website. Don't forget the website. There's lots of stuff there for you to go and see. There's new videos and a whole lot of stuff coming. Keep up to date with the website, and I'm sure that's going to enrich you. It's learn.mindset.co.za. Katlego, over to you. Last
Thank you very
words.
much, guys. It's been an awesome pleasure. Keep the learning going.